Imagine fleeing your country to escape persecution, only to be handed over to your persecutors by the very nation that promised you safety. Congressman Robert Garcia just told Kristi Noem to her face, "You are breaking your oath." This was more than a clash. It was an exposure of cruelty hiding behind bureaucracy.
Of service to this committee, please reach out to us. And again, thank you for the work that you and President Trump are doing.
Appreciate
I yield
that.
back.
Thank you.
Gentleman yields. I now, I think, recognize our last member making comments today. Mr. Garcia, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here, Madam Secretary. And you said that you're committed to complying with the Constitution, which we, of course, all appreciate and think is important. Now, we all know that the Fifth Amendment states, and I just want to be very clear, that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The Fifth Amendment. Just to be clear in a simple yes or no, this actually says person. Is that correct, Madam Secretary?
Correct.
Thank you. And you are aware that person has been defined by the Supreme Court repeatedly multiple times means citizens and non-citizens. Simple yes or no, is that correct?
Correct, I believe.
Thank you. In an April 7th ruling just recently, the Supreme Court has reaffirmed, and I'll quote, "It is well established that the Fifth Amendment entitles aliens to due process under the law in the context of removal proceedings." But of course, the Department deported 230 people to be imprisoned indefinitely in brutal prison. We've deported U.S. citizens, as noted today, children without opportunities for protection. We've illegally arrested students, and we know that just one of these students was released just last week, and you were mandated to do so. Now, the Fifth Amendment is clear. Madam Secretary, you committed to uphold the Constitution, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. And you now, of course, commit to following the Fifth Amendment, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, Madam Secretary, you are violating that amendment as we speak, and you are breaking your oath. You are deporting people, and the department is deporting people without due process. We cannot deport U.S. citizens. Without due process, there is nothing that Donald Trump could essentially be stopped in grabbing people off the street. That's happening today. Now, maybe someone in government might not like your tattoos. Maybe they don't like how somebody votes. Maybe they don't want to see how someone represents your constituents in Congress. But if you can't see a judge, no one can protect you. And I hope that you and I and everyone here can agree with that. And apparently, not even the Supreme Court actually matters when it comes to the case, of course, of Kilmar Garcia. But let's remember that we're not just deporting people. We're sending some of them to be locked up in one of the most dangerous prisons in the world. Now, Madam Secretary, you've heard this case today, but I have to speak about it one more time. I think it's really important. This is Andrew Romero. He had an appointment to come to this country to claim asylum. We gave him that appointment. The United States government gave him his asylum appointment. He comes for his appointment. He passes a credible fear interview. He's a gentle person as described by his family. He's openly gay. He was leaving his country for persecution of being gay. He did everything right, claimed asylum, that was legal. And then we sent him to a dangerous prison at the border with no due process. There are claims about his tattoos. He has his parents' names on his tattoos and 2 crowns that relate to a festival back in his hometown. We are paying to lock this young gentleman up forever. What I would ask is the ambassador in El Salvador, we have asked for proof of life of Andrew. He has had no access to lawyers or family since he has been taken over a month now. No one knows if he's even alive. His mother just wants to know if he is alive. So my ask to you, Madam Secretary, is the same that I asked the ambassador. Can we do a proof of life check on Andrew just to see if he is alive?
Congressman, we are utilizing the tools that Congress has given us to apply due process to individuals. We are doing that for every person, and we are making sure that we're following what you have given us as far as guidance and how things should be implemented.
Would you commit to just letting his mother know, as a mother to mother, if Andrew is alive? He was given an asylum appointment by the United States government. We gave him an appointment. We said, Andrew, come to the border at this time to claim asylum. He was taken to a foreign prison in El Salvador. His mother just wants to know if he is alive. Can we check and do a wellness check on him?
Our asylum applications are different than the granting of asylum, and I don't know the specifics of this individual case. This individual is in El Salvador, and the appeal would be best made to the president and to the government of El Salvador on this.
This
is not under my jurisdiction.
Madam Secretary, you have said that CCOT in El Salvador is one of the tools in the toolbox that you have. You have said that and has been quoted as saying that. You and the president have the ability to check if Andrew is alive and if not being harmed. would you commit at least into looking and asking El Salvador if he is alive?
This is a question that's best asked to the president and the government of El Salvador.
And I think you know very well that you could ask that question. What you are choosing to do, Madam Secretary, is disregard this young man's life, this young man's family, who was given an appointment by the United States. I think it is shameful that you won't even request to see if this young man is alive. His family has no idea, has no access to lawyers. I would hope that we would have the humanity to just check if this young man is okay. With that, I yield back. It's shameful.
Gentleman yields. And I think we've covered everyone. Mr. Rankin.
This is Robert Garcia at his most exacting. Not grandstanding, not performing, but doing what a representative is supposed to do. Translate law into human consequences and demand accountability when the two diverge. He anchors his argument in one simple, ironclad constitutional fact. The Fifth Amendment protects persons, not just citizens. That language matters because it's the legal hinge on which due process swings. When you strip that hinge away, the machinery of justice stops protecting people and starts administering power. Listen to what Garcia does in this exchange. He doesn't merely trade talking points. He narrates a sequence of events that any viewer can follow. A man was given an appointment by the U.S. government to seek asylum. He complied. He passed a credible fear screening, the standard safeguard that should trigger protection, and then he was handed over to foreign authorities and disappeared into a prison where his family has had no access to him or counsel. That progression is chilling because it shows the failure of process at every step where process should have mattered most. So let's pull that apart so viewers actually learn how this happens and why it's devastating. An asylum appointment is a promise. Show up at the port of entry at the scheduled time and you will be allowed to present a claim for protection. A credible fear interview is the first technical filter. It's a trained adjudicator asking, in essence, do you have a legitimate fear of persecution if you return? Passing that interview doesn't mean asylum has been granted, but it does mean the United States recognizes there is a plausible claim that merits further legal consideration. Those are not trivial procedural checkboxes. They are the difference between safe refuge and being pushed back into danger. Garcia then invokes the Fifth Amendment and the Supreme Court's long-standing interpretation that person includes non-citizens in removal proceedings. That's more than legal rhetoric. It's a guardrail against arbitrary state action. Due process exists to prevent the state from deciding life and death matters in the dark, without notice, without counsel, without a hearing. When Noem answers, she couches responsibility in jurisdictional excuses and diplomatic limits. That response is instructive because it reveals what happens when ethical obligations meet political convenience. The ethical obligation, the duty to ensure a human being is not sent to their death, gets outsourced to another government and then to nobody at all. The human detail Garcia gives, the tattoos with family names, the 2 crowns tied to hometown culture, the fact that Andre is openly gay and fled persecution is not ornamentation. It's the human ledger that the policy erases. When you reduce a person to an immigration case, you lose the ledger. Who loved them? Who's waiting for them? Who knows their story? Garcia forces that ledger back into the room. He asks for a proof of life check, not as a political stunt, but as a basic humanitarian demand. A mother's plea for any confirmation of her child's survival is not a partisan talking point. It's a universal moral ask. There are broader lessons here for anyone trying to understand how policy translates to outcomes. First, procedural safeguards matter. They're not legalisms, they're the scaffolding that keeps state power from becoming lethal. Second, jurisdictional language, not under my authority, that's the foreign government's responsibility, can be used to mask moral abdication. In practice, powerful states almost always have levers: diplomatic pressure, consular access, public transparency that can be used to check abuses in partner countries. Saying it's not my jurisdiction is sometimes true technically, but often functionally false. When a government removes someone from its protection, it still bears moral and political responsibility for what follows. Third, oversight mechanisms, congressional hearings, public records, legal representation are the last line of defense when administrative systems fail. That's why hearings like this matter. They create a public record, they force officials to explain themselves on the record, and they give family members a visible platform to demand answers they otherwise can't obtain. Garcia knows this. That's why he frames the exchange not only in legal terms, but in moral urgency. Now, what should viewers take away? If you care about a constitutional system that protects people, you can't treat due process as an abstract principle. You have to demand transparency about how asylum appointments are handled, insist on access to counsel for those who pass credible fear screenings, and push for mechanisms that ensure people are not outsourced into danger. You can also hold elected officials to a standard beyond jurisdictional deflection. Ask them what specific diplomatic steps they will take to check on someone's welfare and why those steps haven't been taken in this case. Finally, this moment is a test of collective conscience. It asks, will we allow bureaucratic distance to become a moral shield for preventing accountability? Or will we insist that promises made in the name of the United States are followed through with action, from legal protections to basic human compassion? If you want more deep breakdowns like this, where we explain the law, show how the process actually affects people's lives, and name what should be done next, subscribe to Left Lens, share this episode so others understand what's at stake, and leave a comment. What question would you ask Kristi Noem if you had the chance? Keep watching, because when officials refuse to answer, the public record and public pressure are the only tools left to protect the vulnerable.